Okay, so we should be starting momentarily. So welcome to another super awesome live lesson that we got planned for you today. So if you are joining us, again, just tell us your name, tell me where you are from, what are you doing today, just tell me anything about yourself. And if you happen to be watching this later, then I hope that you're also having a wonderful week. And again, write something in the comments, tell us hello, talk to us. So today, all right, what we are going to do is talk about this, all right? Writing formal and informal emails. Now, I said emails, even though this applies to much more than emails. This is going to be useful for any type of writing in English that you may be doing, whether it is emails or academic writing at a university. This is going to be useful, all right? This is also super important, though, because I know a lot of people see writing and they think, well, writing, that's not a big deal, but it is actually a huge deal. So I think many people are comfortable with writing informal messages. We do that all the time with our friends on the cell phone. The problem is really the formal writing, and this is what trips people up. And this is also when I say it is so important, because the formal writing is really where you need to know the information, where you need to know how to use the language. Because when you're doing formal writing, those are important times. You're applying for a job. You are applying for admissions to university. You are asking somebody to write a letter of recommendation for you. So these are important messages that you want to write. So it is important that you know how to do formal writing. So we're getting some people. Hello. Sorry if I mispronounced names. Avishek, hello. Anwar from Kuwait, awesome. From the Philippines, excellent. Fabio, Brazil, but in Scotland right now, perfect. Thank you guys for joining again. We're going to talk a little bit about formal and informal writing. And again, this is so important because many of you are using writing to communicate, maybe with school, with jobs. You are using it to send emails, which is why I have that up there. So the first thing I want to go over and talk to you about are some tips for formal writing. Okay, so some of this, you're probably looking at it and think, well, okay, this is pretty obvious stuff, but you would be amazed at when I was at my old school before and I would get emails from people that were applying for a teaching position, and I would look through it and you would be amazed at some of the informal use of the language that they would use, and it just didn't seem very professional. And because of that, people will judge you based on that. So it's very important that you know, again, some tips that if you want to write a formal message, if you want to write a formal essay, you really need to know the language that you should be using. Hello from Damascus, Syria. Awesome. Syria, awesome. Thanks for joining us. If you guys want, again, if you know people that maybe have trouble with their writing, please share this video right now. Share this live stream so we can spread the word to help people become better writers. So the first tip that I have for you up there is just be polite. When in doubt, be polite. So you need to know who you're writing to. And if you're not sure if you're using polite language, or if you think maybe you should be more polite, just go ahead and be more polite. It's better to be more polite than less polite, because again, when you send somebody a message, if you send them a formal email, for example, and they respond to you in a bit more of a friendly tone, then you know where you stand. Then you can respond back to them maybe in a little more friendly manner. But if you send somebody an informal email and they respond back to you with a formal message, then it could be a little awkward, because then they're kind of telling you like, hey, this is not the relationship that we have right now. Marcela, hello from Brazil. Welcome. Awesome. So again, if you're joining us in the chat, tell me your name, where are you joining us from? I just want to hear from you. The next one, and this is so important, and this is one of my pet peeves. Please, 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 I'm going to add one more. Please, no reductions, all right? We're like gonna and wanna, those are not words. So if you're writing a message on your phone to your friend, okay, whatever, that's fine. I know people want to make their messages shorter, and it's faster, it's easier, that is okay. The problem is when people start using the language like that, and then it comes time to write an essay or complete their cover letter for a job. Sometimes they don't distinguish between the informal writing of the telephone or the cell phone with the formal writing of university, for example. And they will put that in their papers. And again, gonna and wanna, those are not English words. So please, in the chat right now, I want to ask you, instead of writing gonna or wanna, what should you write? I want you to write that in the chat. Write those words. Stephen from Shanghai, excellent, awesome. Thanks for joining us. So in the chat, write what you should write. Don't write gonna, don't write wanna. What should you write? So let's go ahead and cross those out for right now. We don't want to write it. Don't write reductions, okay? So in formal writing, you need to, it's fine speaking, because when you're speaking, we speak with reductions all the time. But when you're writing, you do not want to use reduction. So in the comments, what should you write? Excellent. All right, going to and want to, please. So remember that, no reductions. The next thing that I said is your formal writing should be emoji free. All right. If you're writing something, a text or an email to a friend, whatever. If you want to use emojis, that's fine. If you see our Facebook or Twitter page, I use emojis all the time when I'm responding to questions or feedback, because again, to me, that is more of an informal environment. I would like this classroom to be more of an informal environment. So right now, also in the comments, throw an emoji in there. Let me know how you're feeling. Try to capture that with an emoji. There's actually a lot of interesting TED Talks out there about how people are using emojis and how it's kind of changing the way we communicate to some extent, because they're used a lot. But again, in formal writing, if you are writing to somebody about a job position, or if you are writing an essay in your university class, do not use an emoji. And these are silly little things that you might be thinking like, well, of course I'm not going to use an emoji. Again, when I was working at my old school in California, I was hiring some of the teachers, and sometimes I would receive emails from other native speakers who are emailing me about jobs, and they're using an emoji in there. And again, to me, it just didn't seem super professional to be doing that. So again, if you're not going to write somebody about a job and say, hey, I think I would be great for the new position, wink. That makes no sense. Again, that people might see that and then be like, okay, delete. I don't need to read any more about this message. I don't need to look at your CV. So again, in formal writing, emoji free. Don't use an emoji. But if you want to, again, Marcel, also nice. You throw an emoji in the chat, that's perfectly fine. That is okay. The last thing is to avoid using idioms. Idioms, again, are definitely more colloquial, more for speaking. It's not something that you're typically going to use frequently in writing, even kind of when you're doing informal writing to a friend. So especially in academic writing or formal writing, avoid using idioms. That's all. So let me give you an example of what not to do. And I want to go through this with you, this email right here, as an example of what you should not write. And again, as far as I know, this was a true email. because I just went on Google and Googled bad email etiquette, and you find so many different emails of people doing things incorrectly. So I want you to look at this email, and I want you to tell me, what do you think are some of the problems? What are the problems with this email right here? And write it in the chat. So I am going to make a list of your suggestions. Let's move this down here. Okay, what are the problems? What are some of the things that you see wrong with this email? Hello from Mexico. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. Again, we're talking about informal and formal writing. So take a look at this email. What are some issues that you see? Does anything stick out at you as like, okay, yeah, you should not write that? This is an email example of somebody inquiring about a job, about a position. So what are some things that you see that are wrong or that they should not use in this email? So again, yeah, a lot of the first thing, exactly. They're using a smiley face at the end. Again, we just told you no emojis, because in this, let's see, I'm going to add that down here to our list. Again, no emojis. All right, anything else? If there's something else, just put it down there and I'll write it on our list. No emojis. So Sam, at the end of the email, smiley face. Again, I'm thinking, no, I don't care if you are smiling. I am not going to hire you. Okay, perfect. Again, spelling mistakes. If you're inquiring about a job, or if you're writing something that's formal, usually, like I said, formal writing, you're doing something very important. It's about a job. It's about an application. You want to make sure it's professional. If you're writing your CV, your resume, no spelling mistakes. So perfect. Somebody had mentioned that there is a spelling mistake. Wondering right here should be wondering. Let me no capital. All right. Spelling mistakes. Make sure that the spelling is correct. Anything else? There is another shorthand in there, which it is a big pet peeve of mine. Does any? Oh, exactly. Anwar said it. Yes. Thank you. All right. Again, Y-O-U. U is a word. The letter U is not a word. But these are, again, things that you would see all the time, all right? Instead of the letter U, write Y-O-U, okay? When I was teaching, I taught about 5-6 years ago in Namibia. I was teaching at a high school. And this was an issue that a lot of the students in high school had there. They were very comfortable with the SMS language. And they still would use that in their writing. If I were to say, write something about their favorite topic, your hometown, whatever the assignment was. And instead of writing Y-O-U, people would just write the letter U. And it was an ongoing battle throughout the entire year of trying to really kind of retrain people and say, look, you can't use this in your writing. You use it when you're writing an SMS, or that's fine. But whatever you want to do, that's your business. You can do what you want to do, but not in your academic writing. Anything else that you see that is incorrect? We have another one. Yes, another spelling mistake. Fabio, good eye. All right. Email is spelled wrong. They also misspelled that. So instead of, make sure, again, check your spelling. They spelled this. All right. Email should be, of course, email. All right. There was, I think, another thing that you see. Again, look at how it's written. Again, to me, this was actually one of the first things that I noticed when I saw it, okay? They wrote the email in all capital letters, all right? That's just, again, that's bad etiquette. That's bad form. There's no reason to leave the caps lock key on when you are writing a formal message asking somebody about a job, okay? So I'm going to put down here, that's the last thing I'm going to add. All right. do not capitalize all letters. All right. And the same thing goes for like writing a message with only lowercase letters. You want to write proper English. So again, starting a first sentence, use a capital letter. If you're talking about a proper noun, use a capital letter, but you don't need to write it for the whole email. Also, word use, that's a great, somebody just mentioned clipped. Again, it is much better. I was wondering if somebody was going to say that instead of clipped. Just the language that you use. Attached is a much more common word. It's a much better word if you're talking about adding something like your resume or some other document to an email. So instead of saying clipped, it is attached. All right. And again, this is something that you even see on the emails. It's an attachment is what you are adding. So these are some common mistakes. And again, silly mistakes that people make, and not just language learners. The native English speakers make these mistakes all the time, and it's just something that people really need to look for and understand. So also, Anwar, good point. Again, informal versus formal. Look how he started out. He said hello. All right, that's a bit informal. Also, the closing, take care. If you're inquiring about a job, you'd want to be a little more formal, and that is what we're going to next, which is, all right, formal versus informal greetings. So in the chat, if you're joining us, if you're here now, I want you to tell me what kind of formal greeting do you like to use? Now, there are many different situations. Some of us prefer one style over the other. I've listed some different styles for you. So basically, I've given you some formal greetings and tried to tell you when you would use those. So let's go through those one at a time. If you're joining us in the chat, just write down what kind of formal greeting do you like to use, or what kind of informal greeting do you like to use? So the first one, dear sir or madam, we use this when we don't know the person that we're talking to, that you're sending somebody a message, and it may be a man, it may be a woman. So dear sir or madam. If you do know the name of the person, I would recommend using it. So in the next one, we have dear Mr. Smith, or you could say dear Miss Smith. All right. If you know the person's surname, go ahead and write it. I think that's better. And also if the person has a title. So professor, write that in there. Dear Professor Davis. If somebody is a doctor, use that title. It is more polite. It's more formal. It's more respectful to the person you are writing to. And the final one, again, is when you're writing to an unknown person or group, you can say, to whom it may concern. Now, this can be interchangeable with dear sir or madam, but I would use to whom it may concern. For example, if somebody wants me to write them a letter of recommendation, I don't know if that person who's getting it is somebody in human resources, or maybe it's somebody who is the hiring supervisor. So sometimes I'll just write to whom it may concern. Also, pay close attention to the way it's written. All of those words should be capitalized, and it should be followed by a colon, all right, if you're going to use to whom it may concern. Today, some people might say this is a little old, this is a little outdated, we don't really use that as much. Again, you could use other formal greetings like dear hiring manager, dear personnel manager, if you know who that email or who that letter is going to. Some informal greetings, we all know those. Hey, hello, what's up? That is my personal favorite one. I use that one all the time. What's up? I say that often at the beginning of our video lessons because, again, it's a little more informal. But these are some formal ways that you can greet somebody and start the conversation. Again, if you're just joining us in the chat, let us know where your name, where you're joining us from. We want to hear from you. So let's look at some closings right now. Okay. So I've given this is in two parts. All right. So formal ending statement and then a formal closing. So an ending statement is kind of like your last sentence of the letter, the last sentence of the email. These are two of my favorites that I like to use. You could use, I look forward to hearing from you, especially if you want the person to respond to your request. Or if you're asking somebody a favor or you're asking them that you want something, you could say, thank you for your consideration. All right. Thank you for considering my request. You can also use them together. Thank you for your consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. Boom, closing. All right, sincere closing. We have a question. Fabio asked, could I use hi instead of hey? Yeah, for an informal greeting, hi is perfectly fine. You could just say, hi, how's it going? That is okay. And like I said, when you're writing a message, it's better to be formal. And then if that person responds back to you and they say hi, then okay, and write back, and then you know that you can just have a friendly, informal conversation with them. That's perfectly fine. So some formal closings. Again, there's a lot of different ones. Sincerely, best regards. That's kind of my go-to, my favorite. Respectfully. And we use those to close it out. So best regards, and then write your name. Informal closings, I think many of you are familiar with those. Later, ciao, cheers, thanks. Some of them, I think, like thanks, you could use in formal writing. I don't think people are going to get upset or think anything about that. But in my opinion, I think it is still a little more informal. And when in doubt, always be a little more formal. Okay? So these are just some quick tips, suggestions to help you become a better writer, because at some point in either where you are right now or in the future, you are going to be putting together your resume or CV, maybe in English. You are going to be writing emails in English to somebody who might be your professor, your boss, a colleague, somebody in another business sector, and you want to be polite and you need to know how to communicate with that person. So what I want you to do is for your homework. That's right. I'm going to give you guys some homework. I want you to write me a formal or informal message in the comments. So if you're in the chat right now, this video is going to get posted on our channel a little later. Just go back into the comments. Write me a formal or informal message. The best way, again, is always to practice what you've learned. You can write me a formal message about this lesson. You could write me an informal message about your day, whatever you want to do. But practice writing an opening, a closing, and again, just keep it consistent. So you would not want to use a formal greeting and say, dear sir, and then an informal closing and say ciao. All right. Remember, be consistent with your message. So writing homework, I want you to write me a message. Hey, unless you're a little scared, I don't know. I don't think you are. So again, it's always good to practice what you are learning. So thank you guys. I'm happy that hopefully you were able to learn a little more about it. Bayan has a grammar question. If you can, write the grammar question in the comments and I will get back to you. If you have any questions, again, you guys could write those in the comments and I will respond to you. Or you can write to us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat. We are all over social media. And please, 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 if you found this video lesson useful, share it with people you know, okay? Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend and make sure you do the homework, and we will see you next time. All right? So long.